proceed towards the 6th chapter of The Footprints Without Feet, and that is The Making of a Scientist by Robert W. Peterson. Now, some are born, they are born with the talent, with the skill. They have something within them that makes them what they are. Now, here what we are going to see is how this person becomes a scientist. So his journey of how it started, from where it started, and eventually where he landed up. So let's know, and it's really more about dedication, more about hard work, and how he never gives up. So you have to look at it from that angle, that how dedicatedly he did it. His journey was a little tough, but he never gave up. He kept moving on. So let's see more about it. Let's see first about Robert W. Peterson. Who was he? So yes, he was a famous American newspaper writer who later became a freelance author of magazine articles. He wrote with authority, particularly on the topics of sports and scouting. So he was all about this. Now, let's see what this chapter has, the plot of the chapter. Let's see what all is there. The Making of a Scientist is the story of a scientist named Richard H. Ebright. It is an interesting study of how Ebright became a scientist. So again, this whole thing is a journey, how he actually achieved what he really learned throughout his life. After the early death of her husband, Ebright was everything for his mother. His father passed away at a very early age, so obviously it was the team of the duo, the mother and the son. He used to get top grades in schools. He was a blessed child. At a very early age, when he was just in the 2nd standard, he had already collected 25 species of butterflies found around his hometown. Now imagine just being in the 2nd standard, that's around 7 years old. Yeah, he had already collected 25 different types of butterflies, 25 species of butterflies found around his hometown where he was born. The book, The Travels of Monarch X, gave him a thorough knowledge about the monarch butterflies. Now, monarch is another North American type of butterfly. So this book, which was gifted to him, it added to his knowledge. In the 2nd year of his high school, Ebright began to search an unknown hormone in the gold spots of butterflies. In the later years, he discovered how a cell could read the blueprint of its DNA. So lots he did. He did lots. In fact, he was, you can see, properly sort of intensely connected to butterflies. Let's see how he went on step by step and became a very successful scientist. To begin with, at the age of 22, a former Scout of the Year, he was rewarded he was the Scout of the Year. He was talented in a very specific field, excited the scientific world with a new theory on how cells work. At the age of 22, he was so clever at it, he was so talented that he actually excited the scientific world. He brought a lot of excitement there because being so young and knowing so much was not really everyone's cup of tea. So he came up with a new theory on how cells work. That is why everyone in the scientific world got really interested to know about it. Richard H. Ebright and his college roommate explained the theory in an article in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Science. Now, this was a very valuable magazine. So he and his friend, they both explained this theory in one of the articles in this magazine, which is the Proceedings of the National Academy of Science. It was the first time this important scientific journal had ever published the work of college students. Now, these were the maiden students, the first students whose article had actually been published in this scientific journal. Not before this had any student put his article. They were the first ones, and these magazine people actually allowed them. They permitted them, they were welcomed. In fact, what do you mean by the word journal? Scientific journal. You know, they have this where they write their research work in great detail. Yeah, and you remember they wanted to tell about how cells work. It was a new theory. So this theory they were permitted to put in this valuable magazine, and it really made them famous. In sports, that would be like making the big leagues at the age of 15 and hitting a home run your first time at bat. Now, this achievement is such a grand, it is such a royal achievement to have your article in this magazine, in this scientific journal. The very first time these people had, done such a job, and they were the youngest ones. So it was a grand achievement. And this achievement has been compared to, supposing you are the age of 15 and you are in the big leagues. Leagues are what? These are groups of sports clubs or teams playing matches among themselves. So, you are playing a match at the age of 15 and you hit a home run your first time at bat. The first time you are batting, having one's turn or chance to do something. So, the first time you are playing your baseball and you are at the bat and you hit a home run. A home run is, you hit the ball and you go around the whole field and you come back. So this is as good as that, as royal, as achievable as that. This achievement has been compared. Yeah. So it was something really grand for them. For Richard Ebright, it was the first in a long string of achievements in science and other fields. Now further in the future, he had made many more achievements, but this achievement was the first to begin with in the scientific field, in the scientific world. This achievement of writing his theory on how cells work and publishing it in the National Academy of Science, it was the very first achievement, and of course after that many more followed. He began his achievements with this. And it all started with butterflies. His journey started from here. An only child, Ebright grew up north of Reading, Pennsylvania. Now, he was the only son. You remember the father had passed away when he was very young. Richard was very young. So he was the only child and he grew up north of Reading, Pennsylvania. Now, Pennsylvania is where situated in United States, and Reading is one place over there, north of Reading particularly. There wasn't much I could do there, he said. He's saying that place was not so well developed. I didn't have anything much to do there. I certainly couldn't play football or baseball with a team of one. He said, I was the only one. I didn't even have friends to make a team and play. I am the only one. So obviously no team means no game. So I could not play it. But there was one thing I could do. Collect things. He says, I couldn't play, but something had to be done. So what I could think of best doing was collecting things. I could definitely do that. I don't need anybody for that. So he did, and did he ever. He kept doing it and he did it for a very long time. He started collecting, and what? Beginning in kindergarten, Ebright collected butterflies with the same determination that has marked all his activities. Now, while he was in kindergarten, he started collecting butterflies. And his determination, he was so strongly willed that he wanted to do it. His determination was so very strong, just like he did the other activities with the same determination, the same level of, strongly willing to do it. He wanted, so just like he did his other activities, likewise he collected his butterflies as well. He also collected rocks, fossils and coins. In addition to butterflies, he even collected these. He became an eager astronomer too, sometimes stargazing all night. He even became an eager astronomer. Why? He would keep gazing at the stars in the night. He would just lie down and it was a very open place. He had no company, so he could do so many other things. Yeah, so he did that. He would do stargazing, and somewhere he also was an eager astronomer. He wanted to know more about them. From the first, he had a driving curiosity along with a bright mind. He was a curious mind. He wanted to know a lot of things. There are many children who are born with this. And it's good. Whatever they see, they want to find out more about it. They're curious to get to the depth of it. So this is what he wanted to do. He was born with a curious mind and a bright mind. He was intelligent, he was clever, and a very curious child. He also had a mother who encouraged his interest in learning. Now the best part was, you know what, since it was a team of only mother and son, now his mom was a big support. She was the backbone. She also helped him. She also encouraged him in his learning. The interest he had in learning, she totally supported him. She took him on trips, bought him telescopes, microscopes, cameras, mounting materials, and other equipment, and helped him in many other ways. Now, remember, she was, supporting him totally. So, to make sure that his learning was more enhanced, she took him on trips. She took him on various trips to various places so that he could learn more, discover more, explore more. She also bought him telescopes, microscopes, cameras, and mounting materials with other equipments, all that he required to make sure that his learning was going very smoothly. She bought him all the equipments and she helped him in many other ways. So she played a big role, to actually make him go ahead. She was a big support. I was his only companion until he started school. Till he could go to school, he had no friends. I was his only friend, his mother said. After that, I would bring home friends for him. Then later when he started going to school and he had friends, then I would invite them home. But at night, we just did things together. At night, it was only mother and son. So whatever they did it together. Richie was my whole life after his father died when Richie was in 3rd grade. Now, she used to lovingly, pet name, call him Richie instead of Richard. So for her, he was her world. She didn't have anyone else. For the son, it was the mother. For the mother, it was the son. So they were the world for each other. After the father died, Richie was just in 3rd grade. He was barely 7-8 years old. So, they were there for each other always. She and her son spent almost every evening at the dining room table. They always spent it together. If he didn't have things to do, I found work for him. Not physical work, but learning things, his mother said. Now, quite often when we used to sit at the dining table, he would have nothing to do. So I would try finding some work for him. I would try something to get him something so that he continued his learning. Of course, it would not be physical work, not to do something physically, but something to do mentally, learning things, because he loved to learn. He liked it, he wanted to learn. He had that absorbing power, he had the grasping power, and so he loved to learn, and she would quench that hunger. He had more and more to learn, and she would supply that material to keep learning. And learn he did. He earned top grades in school. He used to score very well in school. On everyday things, he was just like every other kid, his mother said. He was just like the others. On daily basis, on everyday things, something that was normal, like a normal child he was. But yes, he was a blessed one. By the time he was in the 2nd grade, Ebright had collected all 25 species of butterflies found around his hometown. His hometown as in the town of one's birth or early life, or of one's present fixed residence. So basically where you are staying right now, or probably you were born there, or you had spent your early life there, that's your hometown. So he was there, that was his hometown reading, and while he was in the 2nd grade, by the time he was in the 2nd grade, he had already collected 25 different types of butterflies which were there in the place he lived. That probably would have been the end of my butterfly collecting, he said. He thought that was it, nothing more to it. I'm sure there can be nothing more. I collected all the butterflies, next what? But then my mother got me a children's book called The Travels of Monarch X. Now, you remember his mother was the main support, yeah? So what she did was, once he collected that, it was not a full stop. It was a comma. It was just a pause. What she did was, she gifted him a children's book called The Travels of Monarch X. That book, which told how monarch butterflies migrate to Central America, opened the world of science to the eager young collector. Now, when she brought him that book, when he went through that book, another new world opened for this curious mind, the eager young collector. He wanted to know more. Now he wanted to know about monarch butterflies migrating to Central America. Yeah, so now he had something more to do. It was not the end. You know, I already told you monarch butterflies are those North American butterflies. So they would migrate in some particular season. You all know we have migrating birds. So even butterflies migrate in one particular season from one particular place to another. So now he had to discover that. He had to know more about it. At the end of the book, readers were invited to help study butterfly migrations. Now, this book was such, at the end, the author had invited them. Now, if you're being the reader, and at the end you are asked that you can come and join us. Join us for what? They were asked to tag butterflies for research by Dr. Frederick A. Urquhart of the University of Toronto, Canada. Now, this Dr. Frederick, he wanted people to, come and help in the research. He wanted them to tag butterflies. What do you mean by tag butterflies? You have to put something on the butterfly's wings, attach something with a glue or some paper, something you had to attach, and then you had to study that, because you know that butterfly has started from your place. Where and how far will that butterfly go? Where will he migrate? When will he migrate? You could be able to study, but once you have tagged it, you have put something on the wing. So they were asked to tag butterflies for research. They had to come and help him for research, and he was from the University of Toronto, Canada. Ebright's mother wrote to Dr. Urquhart, and soon Ebright was attaching light adhesive tags to the wings of monarchs. Now you can see there's one small attached thing here. There's a tag over there, something to put. So she writes, Richard's mother writes to him, and soon Ebright was attaching light adhesive tags to the wings of monarchs. Now he started it. He was interested in adding to that research. So he said, okay, fine, I am a part of that research, and he started light adhesive tags. Adhesive are, you sticky types, there's something to attach with the glue. So he started doing that. Anyone who found a tagged butterfly was asked to send the tag to Dr. Urquhart. They said whoever would find that butterfly would have to send that particular tag to the doctor. You had to send it there, and he would further research it. The butterfly collecting season around reading lasts 6 weeks in late summer. Now, when was this, butterfly collecting season? It was in the place where Richard lived, that's Reading. It lasted for 6 weeks. 6 weeks is anywhere around 1.5 months. But when in late summer, when the summers were supposed to end, so 1.5 months prior to that, they used to start collecting those butterflies. If you are going to chase them one by one, you won't catch very many. Now, if I go to catch one, he thought, I will hardly be able to catch any. So what he did was, the next step for Ebright was to raise a flock of butterflies. He wanted to raise. He wanted to grow. Yeah. So how did he do that? He would catch a female monarch, take her eggs, and raise them in his basement through their life cycle. He was a very smart one, you know. He was interested in doing that research and adding to that research. So what he thought was, he says, look, if I go to catch one butterfly, I wonder how many will I ever be able to catch. So it's better to raise them. So what he did was, he caught hold of a female monarch. He took the eggs from there, and then in his basement, he started to raise them, right? Through their, lifetime cycle, whatever their life cycle was, he started to do that. From the egg to the caterpillar, to the pupa, and to adult butterfly. That whole process, that whole cycle would happen in his basement. And then all adult butterflies would be there in the basement. He did not have to go and catch them. So then he would tag the butterflies' wings and let them go. Once they were adult butterflies, he would stick that tag, he would tag the wings, and he would let those butterflies go. For several years, his basement was home to thousands of monarchs in different stages of development. For many, many years, he kept doing this. He enjoyed his work. He used to tag, he used to let them go, and then they used to find further. So this cycle went on, this whole process went on for many years, and in his basement, there were thousands of monarchs by then, right? And they were in different stages of development. Either they were eggs or caterpillar or pupa or adults, different stages of development. Eventually, I began to lose interest in tagging butterflies. Now, it went on for some time, but you know something, doing the same thing again and again becomes so monotonous. Don't you get bored? Likewise, he got bored. He was tired of doing, putting those adhesives and then letting them go. That's it. He was fed up. It's tedious and there's not much feedback, Ebright said. He's saying, I'm working so hard and I'm not even getting any feedback out of it. In all the time I did, he laughed, only 2 butterflies I had tagged were recaptured, and they were not more than 75 miles from where I lived. He says, so many years I did it. And out of that, what happened? He laughs and he says, this is only 2 butterflies which he had tagged were recaptured. That's it. Only they were recaptured, and that also they had not migrated very far. They had gone only at a distance of 75 miles from where he lived. So it was not a big deal. So he did not really, he was sort of losing interest now. Then in the 7th grade, he got a hint of what real science is when he entered a county science fair and lost. Now, when he was in the 7th grade, he, he participated in county science fair. County is what? Your region or your state. At the state level, he participated and he lost there. But there he got to know, he got a hint of actually what is real science. He got a hint there. It was really a sad feeling to sit there and not get anything while everybody else had won something. He says it was really, very upsetting for me that I sat there, I also took part in it, but I did not win anything. Whereas all the others, they got something or the other. They did win something. Ebright said his entry was slides of frog tissues which he showed under a microscope. Now, what actually had he put up in that fair and why did he lose? So what he had done was, he had put up slides of frog tissues. He had just displayed something which he showed under a microscope, the tissues of the frog. He realized the winners had tried to do real experiments, not simply make a neat display. Now, he had put up a neat display, but he did not win. Why? He realized. He said the others, the winners, had actually done some hands-on activity. They had done some real experiments. That is the reason they had won. So he understood it. He said it's not, just to display. It's better to do some experiment. Definitely, then you can win. So, already the competitive spirit that drives Richard Ebright was appearing. Now he says, okay, if this is the case, I am going to do something similar. Similar in the sense, I will do some experiment in the next year. I knew that for the next year's fair, I would have to do a real experiment, he said. He said only that is going to make me win. And so his competitive spirit goes really high. The subject I knew most about was the insect work I'd been doing in the past several years. Now, you know, he was acquainted to these butterflies, so he had all the knowledge about these insects. So he said, I am definitely going to do something related to this, and I'm going to perform a real experiment in the next competition. So he wrote to Dr. Urquhart for ideas, and back came a stack of suggestions for experiments. So he wanted some guidance. So what he did was, he knew this guy is really good at it. So he wrote to Dr. Urquhart, Dr. Frederick Urquhart, and he told him that I am looking for some good ideas. And the doctor, having all the experience, out of all the experience, he sent him a whole lot of suggestions, a stack of suggestions, a whole lot of suggestions for experiments. Those kept Ebright busy all through high school and led to prize projects in county and international science fairs. Now, the doctor had given him so many suggestions that actually all these experiments, trying all of them, making all of them, using all of them, it actually kept Ebright busy all through the high school. And they also made him win the county fairs, those county exhibitions, and international science fairs. He won, he participated, and he won based on the experiments sent by the doctor. So he was enjoying more of it because he started getting to that level. For his 8th grade project, Ebright tried to find the cause of a viral disease that kills nearly all monarch caterpillars every few years. Now he wanted to still move ahead. So what he did was, now when he was in the 8th grade, okay, what he wanted to do was, he tried to find the reason, the cause of the viral disease that killed the caterpillars, you know, the monarch caterpillars every few years. He says, what is that kills these caterpillars? There is something, and I want to know more about this viral disease. Ebright thought the disease might be carried by a beetle. He says there's a probability that, this beetle must be carrying this disease. He tried raising caterpillars in the presence of beetles. So now what he did was, in the basement, he was already raising these butterflies. So what he did was, he tried raising these caterpillars in the presence of beetles. He also had beetles in the same place. I didn't get any real results, he said. He says there was nothing of the sort. They did not catch a disease because of the beetle. That's what I discovered. But I went ahead and showed that I had tried this experiment. This time I won. So now he showed them something practical. He did a hands-on experiment. He says, look, I did this experiment. I raised caterpillars in the presence of beetles. Of course, the disease was not because of the beetle, but yes, this experiment made me win. This time he won it. The next year, his science fair project was testing the theory that viceroy butterflies copy monarchs. Now, when you talk of the next year, so here he was in 8th, now probably the 9th. His science fair project. Now, what was the science fair project? You remember, every year he was coming with something different. And in fact, you should be knowing in which grade, which experiment he did. It is for you to know in sequence that here he did about the disease. Here now he's talking about viceroy butterflies. Previously what he did. So for every grade, there was, at every level, he performed different experiments. He had the frog, tissues in the microscope. He showed under the microscope that he did. So all these experiments, whatever he did in which grade, you should be knowing. Keep a track of that. Please do that. It will help you to write good answers and correct, obviously. So yeah, the next year his science fair project was testing the theory that viceroy butterflies copy monarchs. Now, there was another species of butterfly, which was the viceroy butterfly. The theory was that viceroys look like monarchs because monarchs don't taste good to birds. Now, what was the theory? Now, viceroy and monarchs, they used to look somewhat similar. They were not much difference, right? So the theory was monarchs don't taste good to birds, whereas viceroys do. So what they would do was, viceroys on the other hand do taste good to birds. So the more they look like monarchs, the less likely they are to become a bird's dinner. Now these viceroys are way smarter. Now they know if we remain as the viceroy, we will be the good prey for the birds. They will come and catch us and eat us up. So what they would do is, they would start looking like monarchs. They would be like the monarchs, and then they would not be taken because monarchs did not taste good. So the birds would never attack the monarchs, but yes, they would quickly come and attack the viceroy. So these viceroys wanted to become like monarchs so that they don't become dinner to the birds. Ebright's project was to see whether in fact birds would eat monarchs. He wanted to see that do the birds really attack monarchs. He found that a starling would not eat ordinary bird food. What is a starling? A common European bird with black-brown spotted plumage, which nests near buildings and is a good mimic. So what he discovered was, his project was to see whether in fact birds would eat monarchs. He wanted to make sure. So he found that a starling would not eat ordinary bird food. It would eat all the monarchs it could get. Now even the monarchs were equally in danger. Why? Because the starling would feed only on monarchs. Ebright said later, research by other people showed that viceroys probably do copy the monarch. Later the later research said that by the other people said that yes, viceroys do copy the monarchs. This project was placed first in the zoology division and third overall in the county science fair. County, we said region, we said state. So this experiment of his, this project, what he did, it was placed in the zoology division was first, and in the county science fair it stood third. So he found that. In his second year in high school, now still moving further in his journey, after he cleared all this, moving further, when he was in the second year in the high school, Richard Ebright began the research that led to his discovery of an unknown insect hormone. Indirectly, it also led to his new theory on the life of cells. So while he was in the second year in his high school and while his research work was going on, now that took him to another discovery. And what was that? It led to his discovery of an unknown insect hormone. He got to know that during his research work. Indirectly, it also led to his new theory on the life of cells. Remember, he was working on the cells, the new cells. He also wanted to find out theory on that. So while he was doing this, somewhere he got a clue, he got a hint, he got an answer to the theory on the life of cells which he wanted to discover. The question he tried to answer was simple. What was that? What is the purpose of the 12 tiny gold dots on a monarch pupa? Now that's a pupa over there. There were 12 tiny gold spots on that. He says, why are they there? What is the purpose of these gold spots? He wanted to know that. Everyone assumed the spots were just ornamental. Ornamental as in serving or intended as ornament or decoration. They were just sort of a part of it. They were just as a decoration. That's what everyone assumed those spots to be. Ebright said, but Dr. Urgat didn't believe it. He says Dr. Urgat did not believe that. He definitely knew that if these 12 spots are there, there was a purpose for it. To find that answer, Ebright and another excellent science student first had to build a device. To find out about it, he and his friend, there was another excellent science student, they had to make a device that showed that the spots were producing a hormone necessary for the butterfly's full development. Now those spots were not just decoration. they were producing such a hormone which actually helped the butterfly to develop. It was not there just like that. It was necessary for the butterfly to develop. This project won Ebright first place in the county fair, and it also gave him an entry into the International Science and Engineering Fair. Now this was a big discovery where everybody assumed it to be decorative. He and his friend, that guy, they actually made a device, and from that they could see that those golden spots were giving out a hormone which actually helped the butterfly to develop. And this got him a prize, the first place in the county fair, and this also gave him an entry into the International Science and Engineering Fair. Now he moved ahead. There was another achievement. There he won the third place for zoology. Even in that, he came the third. He also got a chance to work during the summer at the entomology laboratory of the Walter Reed Army Institute of Research. Now, he also got a chance. He got the third place there. In addition to that, he got a chance to work during the summer. What work he had to do? The study of insects. Entomology, the study of insects. There was a laboratory there of the Walter Reed Army Institute of Research. He got a chance to be there as well during the summer. As a high school junior, now he was in the junior level of the high school, Richard Ebright continued his advanced experiments on the monarch pupa. You remember he was working on that pupa. That year, his project won first place at the International Science Fair and gave him yet another chance to work in the Army laboratory during the summer. So you see how his journey is going on and on, one leading to another, one success, one achievement leading to another. So while he did that, his advanced experiments when he was doing on the monarch pupa, there his project won the first place at the International Science Fair and also gave him a chance to work in the Army laboratory during the summer. So you see, his journey kept going on and on. In his senior year, now from junior when he went to the next year, he went a step further. He grew cells from a monarch's wing in a culture. Culture as in there's a preparation of cells obtained by growth in artificial medium containing nutrients. It was artificially done. So in a culture, and he showed that the cells would divide and develop into normal butterfly wing scales only if they were fed the hormone from the gold spots. Those 12 tiny gold spots which were there on the pupa, those hormones, only if those were fed to the where he did that, the culture, he grew the cells from a monarch's wings in a culture. He showed that those cells would divide and develop only if those hormones were fed. Otherwise, they wouldn't. So those hormones played a very important role. That project won first place for zoology at the international fair. When he proved it, when he showed it, he won the first place. He secured the first place. He spent the summer after graduation doing further work at the Army laboratory and at the laboratory of the US Department of Agriculture. So now he started getting, to be well known, and then he was given opportunities to work in the Army laboratory as well as the laboratory of the US Department of Agriculture. The following summer, after his freshman year at Harvard University, Ebright went back to the laboratory of the Department of Agriculture, and there he did more work on the hormone from the gold spots. He did not stop there. He still wanted to find out much more about it. So even after the following summer, after his freshman year at the Harvard University, he again went back to the laboratory of the Department of Agriculture and he did more work on it. Using the laboratory's sophisticated instruments, there the instruments were way more higher, way more complicated, and still you could get more conclusions out of those instruments. he was able to identify the hormone's chemical structure. Now, because those instruments, they were way more, as in, much more deeper, you could get to much more deeper levels. So that helped him to identify the hormone's chemical structure. He discovered the hormone in the pupas, those golden spots. Then he also went on further to get to the hormone's chemical structure. A year and a half later, during his junior year, Ebrard got the idea from his new theory about cell life. So again, you get to the cell, exactly the new theory which he wanted to always be on, the cell theory. So he got the idea from this new theory about cell life. It came while he was looking at X-ray photos of the chemical structure of a hormone. Now, he got to this cell life when he was actually looking at the X-ray photos of the chemical structure of a hormone. This led him to the cell life. When he saw those photos, Ebrard didn't shout Eureka or even I've got it. He did not scream. He was not happy at he was not yet there that what he had found out. But he believed that along with his findings about insect hormones, the photos gave him the answer to one of the biology puzzles, how the cell can read the blueprint of its DNA. One research led to another. So while he was there, when he was seeing those photos, he did not really, he did not feel that I need to stop here. He said, this is taking me somewhere else. And where? He was getting the findings, about those insect hormones. Those photos gave him the answer to one of the puzzles of biology. And what was that? That how the cell can read the blueprint of its DNA. Let's get to the next two lines and you'll understand further what do you mean by the blueprint. Now, DNA is the substance in the nucleus of a cell. Now, the cell is made up of, you can see the nucleus in the cell. Now, here the DNA is the substance in the nucleus of a cell that controls heredity. So, when you, so often we say, that, oh, the child is looking like the mother. The child is doing something similar, like just like the mother does, the child is doing, things get carried forward. Yeah. So this DNA is responsible for that. It controls heredity. It determines the form and function of the cell. This DNA, which is in the nucleus of the cell, is highly responsible for the form and function of the cell. How the cell will function, in which form will it be, it is all the work of the DNA. Thus, DNA is the blueprint for life. Now, the body is made up of cells. Now, if the DNA is going to form all this, it is the blueprint for life. You see the whole connection, the whole thing is interlinked. Ebrard and his college roommate, James R. Wong, worked all that night drawing pictures and constructing plastic models of molecules to show how it could happen. Now, he had to show this. He had to, whatever he had done research on, whatever he had discovered, he wanted to show it. So, along with his roommate, his college roommate, James R. Wong, they worked all night that day. And what did they do? In some form or the other, they had to show the molecule. So, they tried drawing the pictures. They also constructed plastic models of the same, of the molecules to show how it could happen. They wanted to show it. Together, they later wrote the paper that explained the theory. They wrote it together. They wrote it step by step how actually this theory worked. Surprising no one who knew him, Richard Ebrard graduated from Harvard with the highest honors, second in his class of 1,510. Now, everyone knew, nobody had any kind of doubt that Richard Ebrard was definitely the most intelligent one amongst the most intelligent. So, when he graduated from Harvard, he stood second, where there were students of among, 1,510. and he stood second amongst them in the highest honors. So nobody was really surprised because this was always the case with him. He was a, top student. He always scored the highest grades. Ebright went on to become a graduate student researcher at Harvard Medical School. So his journey still took another turn. He went on to become a graduate student researcher. He was a student researcher. There he went on to graduate at the Harvard Medical School. There he began doing experiments to test his theory. Now all the theories that he had got, now he started implementing them. He started experimenting them. If the theory proves correct, it will be a big step towards understanding the processes of life, because it was all about the cell. So obviously it was all the process of life. So if it proved to be correct, then that would be a big achievement. It would be a big step towards understanding the processes of life. How does that cell division, how does it actually work on in life? They will get to know a lot of things about it if they get it. It might also lead to new ideas for preventing some types of cancer and other diseases. Now, if they get to know about these cells, if they get to know if the theory actually works out correctly, they will be in that position to get new ideas where they can even prevent people from getting cancer and other diseases. Because these cells are there, they are there, but how they get activated, so they would get to know, and they would, do such a thing where people could not suffer from these diseases and even cancer. All of this is possible because of Ebright's scientific curiosity. Because he was curious, because he was a curious mind, how this, why this, when this, what this, that curiosity he had, all because of that curiosity, he landed where he was today. His high school research into the purpose of the spots on a monarch pupa eventually led him to his theory about cell life. Now, his theory on monarch pupa, where he was working on that research led him, it took him towards the theory about cell life. It was a big achievement for him and something that he really wanted to know about. Richard Ebright has been interested in science since he first began collecting butterflies. So, it was his step one where he had started collecting butterflies. Remember the 25 species of butterflies he had collected? So, there his journey had begun, right? His interest in science had started there, but not so deeply that he hasn't time for other interests. He did that, but it was not only science. He had other interests as well, which he kept up with. And Ebright also became a champion debater and a public speaker. He did not stop only at science. He also went on to be a champion debater and a public speaker and a good canoeist and all-around outdoors person. Canoeist, a person who paddles a canoe, that light boat. So he was even good at that, and also all-around outdoors person. Many other activities, many other sports. He is also an expert photographer, particularly of nature and scientific exhibits. He is also a very good photographer. He mastered where he used to click pictures of the nature, and also whatever displays, all the scientific displays, the exhibits that used to happen, he used to click amazing pictures. In high school, Richard Ebright was a straight A student. Now, we all knew that. He was a very bright, very intelligent, a real gifted student. Because learning was easy, he turned a lot of his energy towards the debating and model United Nations clubs. Now, for him, learning was very easy. He was a blessed one. He had that thing of absorbing and grasping knowledge really fast. Because that was very easy for him, he did not have to put in a lot of efforts to learn. So what he did, that energy, which he did not put in efforts, so he had a lot of energy, he turned a lot of his energy towards debating and Model United Nations clubs. He became a member of it and he used to do a lot of debating. You know, with debating, we all learn a lot, don't we? I mean, if you must have definitely got into debates, you'll know how much you can speak and you can, you know, there's a lot of attack and defense in that and a lot of learning happening. So he used to do that. He also found someone to admire. He found someone, and who was he? Richard A. Weyherer, his social studies teacher and advisor to both the clubs. Now, he came across his social studies teacher who actually he really admired, and he was an advisor to both the clubs as well. Mr. Weyherer was the perfect person for me then. He was exactly what I was gifted. He was exactly what I was looking for. He opened my mind to new ideas, Ebright said. He said this was the person whom I was looking for. And he was the one who opened my mind to yet more new ideas. Richard would always give that extra effort, Mr. Weyherer said. Mr. Weyherer knew this child very well, this person very well. And he says he always puts in those extra efforts. He walks that extra mile to get more. What pleased me, he says, was here was this person who put in 3 or 4 hours at night doing debate research besides doing all his research with butterflies and his other interests. He said he was so dedicated, so diligent that he would work for 3 to 4 hours in the night, doing debate research. Whatever he wanted to debate, he would research on it in the night along with research with butterflies and all his other interests. Now, just imagine he had so many things on his plate. He used to do so many things. Richard was competitive. Competitive as in a very healthy manner. And what competition? He would not compete with the others. Mr. Weyherer continued, but not in a bad sense. It was healthy competition. He explained, Richard wasn't interested in winning for winning's sake or winning to get a prize. He was not interested in that, not in winning or just to get the prize. But he was winning because he wanted to do the best job he could. He wanted to give his 100%. He wanted to give his best. That is why he wanted to win. For the right reasons, he wants to be the best. He doesn't want to compete with you, but he wants to make sure that he gives his best. So he wanted to win. And that is one of the ingredients in the making of a scientist. Along with a lot of curious mind, a lot of other, qualities, this is one of the most important qualities in the making of a scientist. Start with a first-rate mind. What all do you need to become a scientist? You have to use your first-rate mind, add curiosity, lot of questions, be inquisitive, why this, how this, when this, and mix in the will to win for the right reasons. You should have that determination to win, not for the sake of winning, but for the right reasons. These make the best scientist. These qualities give birth to a very good scientist. Ebright has these qualities. That is the reason he is a wonderful scientist. From the time the book, The Travels of Monarch X, opened the world of science to him, Richard Ebright has never lost his scientific curiosity. Where his journey began, the day his mom had gifted him The Travels of Monarch X, from that day onwards, the world of science, it opened to him, and he has never lost his scientific curiosity. And this journey of being curious, this journey of getting this scientific curiosity, today you know him as the American molecular biologist. Well, this is how the journey goes. This is how it is. No matter what, one leads to another. One success led to another. One achievement led to another. This was how he actually became a very intelligent and a very well-known scientist. Butterflies can't see their wings. They can't see how truly beautiful they are. But everyone else can. People are like that as well. Well, so beautifully put. He says the butterflies, they cannot see their own wings. You know, the others see it and they praise it. This applies to the people as well. Some people don't know how talented, how skillful, how much well they are filled with potentials, lot of credentials. They don't know. There are people who discover, who tell you that yes, you can do it, you have the potential. I'm sure you also must be knowing, but it's good to know your own, your own self, your own talents. Please discover them and get to know them. And if people guide you through, nothing more like it. Just like, Richard got a lot of helping hands everywhere, I'm sure you in your journey will get the same. Yes? So for the same, keep watching and keep learning.